Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Prison time could be coming for J.P. Morgan officials that have been involved in precious metals manipulation. Let's explore. For those of you familiar with this channel, you know that I have been covering this story with regards to J.P. Morgan and precious metals manipulation. It has been proven they have agreed, being found guilty as an institution, to pay $920 million in fines for manipulating the metals that you see on your screen, gold and silver, but also platinum and palladium. Well, there is another development in this story, as there is going to be a trial for those involved, and it could involve prison time. I think this is good news to see that could be a possibility for those individuals involved in it. Yes, indeed, over spoofing. And if you enjoy news on precious metals, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel and or pressing the notification bell so that you can be apprised of the latest content that makes its way across your device, and press the like button as well, the thumbs up button. It does help the algorithm to get the word out there. So this is from Financial Advisor, FAMag.com, and reports on this. Michael Nowak was once the most powerful person on the gold market. That name may sound familiar to you, as I'd reported on that name when he was involved in this precious metals trading and spoofing. The former J.P. Morgan Chase & Company managing director ran the bank's precious metals business for more than a decade, making hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, trading everything from silver to palladium. Now he and two of his former colleagues face a federal jury in Chicago on criminal charges for thousands of so-called spoofing trades, which prosecutors say were used for years to generate illicit gains for J.P. Morgan and its top clients. The trial, slated to kick off Thursday, threatens to lay bare the inner workings of the prestigious bank that has long dominated the market for gold. The government says Nowak's business operated as a criminal enterprise, manipulating prices from 2008 to 2016 by placing thousands of trade orders that were never intended to be executed. If convicted, the three men are among the biggest players yet to face prison for price manipulation. These are big hitters, said Robin Barr, a former metal strategist at Societe Generale SA who spent more than 3 decades in the industry. Coming to court gives a lot more transparency in what is a very opaque market, so we may learn a lot from this trial if testimony is made public to see exactly how they did it, with these high-frequency trades as well that are happening now. And it may be something they can investigate even further to see how things are done even automatically behind the scenes that may be illegal now, but may be, in a sense, unethical. The trial comes after years of U.S. government crackdown on price manipulation that saw J.P. Morgan pay $920 million to settle spoofing claims 2 years ago. Again, I covered that story. With $333 billion of notional value in precious metals derivatives contracts at the end of March, the New York-based bank accounts for 67% of the positions put through U.S. banks. It holds 3 times as much as the next biggest player, Citigroup, data show. Nowak, who was also a board member of the body that runs the London gold market, faces 15 counts, including commodities fraud, conspiracy to engage in racketeering, and price manipulation and spoofing, planting fake orders under the market to steer others into buying or selling prices that favor the bank. Trader Greg Smith faces 13 counts, while Jeffrey Rufo, a salesman, faces 2 counts. A fourth defendant, Trader Christopher Jordan, is scheduled to be tried separately on November the 28th. So think about that. They're placing these fake orders in the market to steer others into buying or selling. And that's just it. This manipulation occurs on the way up and on the way down, so it can move the price in either direction. As long as they profit and personally gain from it, they don't care where the price goes. and all four have pleaded not guilty and face decades in prison if convicted on these charges. So we know manipulation occurs. Now, there are some of you who are screaming at your screens and say, Sal, you finally come to the light on manipulation? Well, I've always been in the light on manipulation. We know what happens. But the thing is what I do question is a coordinated effort, a cabal, if you will, to suppress the price of precious metals, especially silver. Now, there has been some instances where I've seen happen live, at least in the trading, from watching a lot of contracts of silver being sold off at once, an unusual thing to happen. But there could very well be the same thing happening in the other direction, and it may be something that is normal. I don't know. But the thing is to tie that necessarily to a cabal to suppress the price is somewhat of a stretch in my view. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I am more open-minded to the idea of price suppression. I don't know that necessarily that that there's enough power within institutions to do it legally and get away with it. But nonetheless, it may warrant some either investigation or an explanation to find out exactly how these things work. I just don't know. There's a lot of complexity in that world. But one thing I do know is that the silver market being what it is there is a lot of natural market forces that are extremely powerful that have been able to push the price down, that operate outside. For instance, silver price is low now, and that's largely because of the lack of industrial demand. And I'm going to be reporting more on that in other videos, but it does not mean I don't believe in silver, and it does not mean that there may not be some of that suppression happening. If you want to take into account what the Federal Reserve is doing, you can make a cogent argument there that they suppress the price of many things on purpose, for sure. But nonetheless, that's an aside. And manipulation and suppression, suppression is a type of manipulation. And as to whether or not it's a cabal, here you got 4 people tops that have engaged in it in one big bank. Huge thing, obviously, big thing, but it's 4 people doing it for selfish gain. Norwalk's lawyer declined to comment, as did federal prosecutors. Attorneys for Smith and Rufo didn't respond to requests for comment. And, that is a normal practice for the times that I've reported on this story. In every single case, every single story that I've covered on J.P. Morgan and manipulation, J.P. Morgan declines to comment. Norwalk was arrested in September 2019, sending a shockwave through the metals and proprietary trading world. Industry insiders told Bloomberg in 2020 that Norwalk, an introverted and brainy young father with a house in the Manhattan suburbs, had a clean reputation. He was released on $250,000 in bond. His arrest was part of a raft of prosecutions brought by the Justice Department since spoofing was defined and made illegal by the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010. In fact, essentially, that's a racketeering law. Essentially, that was done. There's RICO Statute. The government has extracted more than $1 billion in fines for banks and filed criminal charges against dozens of individuals using trading records and internal bank chat logs as evidence. And that tells you something, folks. And they're going after and they're finding the evidence in the digital footprint. And that's just it. If there was price suppression, it makes you wonder if they couldn't find out through this type of activity, through the digital footprint left over by these high-frequency trades and massive dumps of contracts. In 2021, 2 Bank of America Corporation precious metal traders were convicted in Chicago. A year earlier, a jury found 2 from Deutsche Bank guilty, while others reached plea agreements and cooperated with authorities. The most infamous spoofer was Navinder Singh Sarayo, a British day trader accused of contributing to the 2010 flash crash in U.S. stock markets. While cases have involved alleged crimes such as commodities fraud and conspiracy, prosecutors have upped the ante with the J.P. Morgan defendants. They've added charges under the Racketeer Influence and Corruption Organization Act. In other words, the RICO Statute, a law more commonly used against gangs and the mafia. The government claims members of the precious metals desk work together to use unlawful trading practices to maximize the bank's profit and minimize its losses on trades in gold and silver. More recently, RICO statutes were used in criminal charges against Bill Huang, whose Archegos Capital Management collapsed last year, costing banks millions. It's the closest thing we have to nuclear option in a financial context, said Eugene Soltes, a professor at Harvard Business School, who has written about white-collar crime. Among the department's government's witnesses are former J.P. Morgan employee, including John Edmonds, who told prosecutors about Norwalk's trading in 2018, as well as Armand Nakab, Kristen Pfeiffer, and Kristen Trunt's court records show. Another is former Bear Stearns and Bank of Nova Scotia trader Corey Flom, who pleaded guilty to price manipulation in 2019. You'll notice that a lot of these occurred from about 2008 to 2016, and so it's very difficult. Likely people are being more careful these days. Now let's go down here and talk about this high-frequency trading, because this is pretty in-depth. This article is talking about a lot of different things here. Market players say that before Dodd-Frank, spoofing, as it's known today, was prevalent on Wall Street. Some traders sought to bluff rivals like high-frequency trading firms to gain an edge, canceling orders before a trade was executed. If you have a large order and the algorithms pick up where you are selling, they are going to jump in front of you, said Matthew Mazur, an attorney at Descartes LLP who had defended a Deutsche Bank trader in 2020. If you telegraph to the market what you actually want to do, you would be killed. That argument hasn't worked with jurors in recent trials, where defense lawyers asserted that their clients intend to execute the trades, but canceled for legitimate reasons. In the trial for the Deutsche Bank traders, their attorneys argued that fooling competitors in financial markets is no different than bluffing in a high-stakes poker game. The defense is going to say the market is changing and the traders wanted to change their minds and make adjustments, said Soltz, the Harvard professor, but you have to have a genuine willingness to execute that trade. The government also intends to bring experts in algorithmic trading, including David Petty of Susquehanna International Group. Prosecutors allege the defendants broke the law to try and outsmart firms like Susquehanna, whose edge and speed allowed them to get ahead of the bankers, placing high-value orders. By placing orders with the intent to cancel them before execution, the defendants could cause markets to react to a false picture of supply and demand, creating an opening to complete trades and moving prices in favorable directions, prosecutors said in their indictment. And so, very interesting indeed. And it's U.S. versus Smith et al. And it'll be fascinating to see where this goes. Now, what has led to this? What has led to this very moment? It is a derivatives market, a false sense of supply and demand based off of paper contracts that don't exist in the real world, folks. That's the problem. To me, that should go away. They should find some other way to trade, something that's backed by actual physical metal in hand to really reflect the true price, in my view. And to me, that is what is criminal, and it should be done. These futures, options, and ETFs all need to go away unless they are backed by the actual physical and could be proven by said stocks and held at the COMEX or wherever. Until that stuff stops, you're going to have other ways of people to skirt and be able to make these complex movements and do things that are not in the realm of the real world in terms of the metals that they contain. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude you all for taking the time to watch and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.